With a major step forward as the Key Commission approves the largest housing development ever proposed for Long Island. Yet with one step to go, the massive project in the town of Islip still faces some stiff opposition. The Suffolk County Planning Commission debated for hours over the Heartland Town Square project. Developer David Wolkoff is used to that. His family first proposed the massive development for the town of Islip 14 years ago.
The major first phase will be 3,500 units, 250,000 square feet of retail, and about 300,000 square feet of office.
These artist renderings show what Wolkoff hopes to build in 3 phases over the next 30 years. It includes a total of 9,000 apartments on the grounds of the former Pilgrim Psychiatric Center. The Wolkoff family bought the property years ago and has already demolished all of the abandoned buildings.
This is the worst project ever proposed on Long Island in history.
The head of the Long Island Pine Barren Society says the Heartland project will create waste and potential contamination on land that's already been designated a special groundwater protection site. The developer says there's no issue, though, because the project will be hooked up to an existing sewer line. Project opponents also pointed to the many vehicles that will be added to the already congested traffic on the main roads bordering the site. That worries Mike Malillo, who works nearby.
Long Island Avenue, getting from Heartland to Deer Park Avenue, if there are trucks on the road, you can be on that road for 15, 20 minutes.
The developers say they'll handle that by setting up shuttle service to nearby buses and trains for the new residents.
What we're trying to do is trying to get people out of their car and to use mass transportation. So we're going to be providing things like zip cars.
And joining us now is Richard Amper. He is the executive director of the Long Island Pine Barren Society. And welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Now, you spoke out of that hearing where they approved it unanimously. I think it was a 5-0 vote. What did you think of that vote?
Well, I wasn't surprised by it. The planning board is less applying planning body than a real estate development promotional operation sometimes. This is really a big, bad project. I mean, we're talking about 4 million square feet of office space. We're talking about more than 1 million square feet of retail, along with those 9,000 homes that you made reference to. This is an estate-designated special groundwater protection area. We've got major challenges with the road network there, the expressway, sag to coast. All those exits probably have to be altered. You got problems with the school district. It's a big challenge. It's a big project.
Want some money for educating any kids that come out of there, and that probably would get resolved. You would figure one way or another. Otherwise, they're threatening to sue the Brentwood School District.
Well, and of course, still, as you pointed out, the town has some say-so too, and they can impose some additional requirements of the developer.
Where does it stand with the town? You know, the developer says he has the town officials' support and the county executive support, but when I called all of them, nobody returned my calls.
Well, that's because he has their support, I think, and they don't want to say so.
It's a hot issue,
not popular in the community.
It's
not popular in the community, and it's not popular among environmental folks. So I think everybody's keeping quiet to put the onus on the town, where they ultimately have to make a decision, and that I think we all expect to occur sometime around April.
Well, they know they're going to have traffic. They're going to have to deal with that. That would happen with anything that's large scale. He's talking about 3 phases, the developer, 3,500 units, then almost 3,000.
It seems almost like an experiment. I think you ought to know what's going to happen before you approve a project that big.
Well, part
and
of
now they're going to build it and look at it and say, was that a good idea or not? That's sort of a backwards way of proceeding.
Well, part of the way the approval process worked is they'll say, well, we'll let you do a part of it, see how that works out, and then we'll see whether the other developments occur further down.
Sounds like trial and error to me.
Well, you know, but what about the issue of affordable housing for young people? They don't have any place to go on Long Island.
The absolute right thing, and affordable housing in most people's definition is affordable to people who make 80% of the area mean income. That's not what we're seeing here. A lot of the affordable housing
never see that, Dick.
Well, I know it comes to 120%. You ask one of these young people about affordable housing, and they say, I can't afford that. So affordable housing needs a little bit better definition before we all applaud.
Well, now it has to go before the Islip Town Board. Is your sense that they support it, as the developer claims?
I think that's so. I think it's taken a long time, and I do think they've made some progress. I think they have raised some questions, and they've adjusted the project somewhat. So it's better than it was 14 years ago. I think our big concern is, what's it going to look like 14 years from now?
You know, if they're hooked up to a sewer system, doesn't that solve the problem of the waste?
It solves part of the problem, but that particular sewer system is trouble-plagued. We're having problems with the outfall pipe. You also then have the problem of turf management in the overall property and cleaning and other activities. things that are industrial but not necessarily dry industrial that all affect recharge. And in fact, the number of buildings we're putting there actually reduces the amount of groundwater recharge that we should be getting in that special groundwater protection area.
Well, what will you do to oppose it? Because it seems like it's starting to move forward toward completion now.
It continues to move, and it's taken a long time, and it's taken a lot of money. I just hope they get it right.
All right, let's talk about the big bipartisan measure that kind of got overlooked, I thought, in a lot of ways, with the governor proposing to spend $2 billion for water quality, and then a bipartisan state legislators joined together.
You guys have been following this story. Everybody on Long Island recognizes that our big problem on Long Island, the biggest one facing us, is that our water is declining, both drinking water and surface water. It's all from, or 90% of it's from the nitrogen, which comes from wastewater and fertilizer. It's getting into the water that we drink and that we depend on for clean bays. We're seeing fish kills. We're seeing closed waterbeds, beaches, all seafood. It's just really getting out of control.
Kills, massive fish
so
kills
now,
every year.
out of the blue, for the first time, we're really seeing a commitment. First, on the governor, his $2 billion infrastructure, water quality infrastructure act.
Would that be a bond? Where would that money come from?
That would be bonded by the state. The bond act that would have to go to the public is a $5 billion environmental bond act that has been proposed by 2 state senators and 1 state assembly person.
So they're competing proposals?
I'm not sure whether they both get done or how that ultimately gets negotiated, but then we have the one last one in Suffolk County where we do need a local match, or we don't get to leverage any of that other money that would come from a very small fee on water.
And what has to happen there, then?
Well, the public would go to referendum and say, do we want to pay a couple of pennies a day to improve water quality?
Is that already set up, or you're proposing
That's what we're proposing as well. So it's going to take 2 or 3 of these things to make the whole thing work.
Well, the people who've complained about it for years, including yourselves, about the deteriorating water quality, say billions are needed. Now perhaps billions are coming. What would we see practically, though? We're not going to see a bunch of studies and money wasted on bureaucracy.
Absolutely not. We're going to analyze very, very carefully where the problems are. And the first problem is in Suffolk County, where there are 350,000 individual cesspools or septic systems at people's homes and businesses.
Because Nassau is mostly sewered. That's
correct. But in this particular case, we're going to have to put in new nitrogen-removing septic systems. So we have to help the homeowner by subsidies. Government has to help them do that job.
15, 20 grand for some of these systems.
Well, we think they're going to come in at closer to 10,000 once you get to the point of everybody's doing it. It's a lot of money, and so we have to help the public do that. And
what does that mean? Subsidies for them?
Yes, tax breaks, those kinds of things. But in addition, if they know that for a minimum investment of a couple cents a day, they're going to leverage all this state money, then we're in for a bargain.
Well, I want to ask you one last thing about it's a story we're going to have in our next segment about the dioxin that has been found in the water. What's your take on that? Where did that come from? This came from chemicals, a lot of them in detergents. We're getting more and more aware of these toxins, pesticides, and other things. We have a big job in front of us. Well, there's a lot to talk about. Richard Amper, Executive Director of the Long Island Pine Barrens Society, thank you very much. And still ahead, we're going to